Welcome back to Utah's Gentleman Farmer. I'm Randy Vaudry. I'm the host of this YouTube channel. And I wanted to introduce, I've already introduced one of my daughters. This is my other daughter, Chelsea. And Chelsea is what, there are people who call themselves off-gridders. They're people who pride themselves on being completely or at least partially disconnected from utilities. Now, she lives in a nice suburban area. However, this home was built when there was absolutely no one up in this area. What they had to do to live here was they had to drill a well so they had water. They had to put in a septic tank, and then they also had to use propane. They're the only utility they were connected to is the city's electric system. You're going to change even the electricity soon, aren't you? What are you doing?
Yeah, we're already signed up or contracted in to have solar put on our roof because we are south facing, so that will take care of all of our electricity as well.
See, so she's what I would call a suburban off-gridder because she lives in the middle of a development, but she's also the very last house before you go up into the foothills, and all of that land is owned by the city. So, but she has a great setup here, and I just wanted to spend a few minutes chatting with her about what she's done here. She's also what I'd probably call an urban homesteader. Let me just ask you a few questions and then we'll walk around your garden. Tell me how you've set this up. I've actually never seen this. I didn't know you could get tomatoes this tall.
So we are in a really windy situation. So as you can see, some of them have already fallen down, but each one is staked and you prune them so there's just one main leader all the way up. You will get fewer tomatoes that way, but your tomatoes will be a much better quality. And as you can see, there's really no shortage of tomatoes, even if you do it this way. These are indeterminate tomatoes, so they'll just keep going as long as you let them. So they're already at about 6-7 feet tall. That's as tall as my stakes go. They end right here.
And they're growing past that.
But yeah, they would keep going past it. As you can see, there's massive clusters.
So it's kind of the same philosophy as that I presented in thinning apples. You thin them so that you get a better fruit, better quality fruit. You get less, but you get a better quality.
So in this area, we have our corn. This is our first round of corn, so we'll be picking the ears off of these in about a week to 2 weeks. Some of them came up earlier. It's kind of been a weird year for corn. A lot of people have been having the same thing we have, where we actually got really short stalks, but we're still getting full ears of corn. In fact, some of these even have 3 or 4 ears on them. So this is our first round of corn. These right here, our second round. These will be ready in probably about a month or 2. These will hit right at the end of the season. So we'll get one last good group of corn before the frost sets in. Growing in between these, we have sweet potato vines, and then where my corn didn't germinate well, I planted some bush beans. So those are some black beans. And then here are Marketmore cucumbers. That's what this line is.
All of these are cucumbers?
Yeah, all of these stakes are cucumbers. And Marketmore, like the type you would typically see at your store. Anything in my garden, if you see a piece of yellow string tied to it, it's just because I saved seeds, and that means I've hand pollinated it and it's safe to save for seeds for next year. On this side, we have more cucumbers. These are lemon cucumbers and Armenian, which Armenian cucumbers are technically a melon, but
really?
they act just like a cucumber.
'Cause I really like Armenian cucumbers.
Yep, technically they're a melon. In between the cucumbers, we have mammoth sunflowers. So those are the types of seeds that you would typically buy to eat. You know, just your typical buy at the store bell peppers. They're coming in well. Here's another jalapeno that's actually doing really well.
Do you really want them that hot?
So well, they get
I'm
hotter
pretty
once.
Wimpy.
They get hotter once they turn red, and these are still quite small. So they even if I picked them now, they're pretty mild. You can see, I mean, this starts up here, leads down, and it has all of that just from one lead. Some red. Oop, that one's obviously ready.
One's ripe.
So, you know. That's the beauty of a garden. You get to eat while you work. So these are sweet 100s. So I don't save seeds from those because they're a hybrid. But over here.
So that just means that if you save the seeds, you're not going to get sweet 100s when you plant them.
Yeah, a hybrid is, you know, they've taken one tomato and one tomato and crossed them to get a certain type. If you take the seeds from that, you won't get the same. You'll get either the parent, you'll get either one of the parents.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
which, if you just like tomatoes, then you can do it.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It just won't stay true generation after generation.
Okay. Well, let's go around.
These are redortas, so these do.
See, and I've never heard of those. I'm really interested to see how those turn out. They're a type of tomatoes, and you've got them covered. Well, actually,
you can see one over here.
Here's one. Now,
Those
some of them she's got covered with nylons. Now, why is that?
Because the birds come and eat them, so it hides them. You can see a better one down here. Those ones, for some reason, are growing really funky. This is what a redorta usually looks like.
Oh.
I'll take the stocking off so you can see. They usually are, oh, this is very soft. I need to pick this actually.
It looks like a tomato crossed with a bell pepper.
Yeah. My onions are done. These are the last group that I have of onions. You know an onion's ready to pick when they've flopped over like this.
So you can live out of your garden for a good part of the summer.
Yeah, and I freeze dry, so we can live almost all year.
Oh, that's great.
So, and then these are all my carrots. Again, some beans kind of grew in the bald spots. And then I have red onions up there. The bald spot over there is where I had my garlic, but we've already harvested that.
What do you have here?
These are all potatoes.
Is there
Yukon
a particular...
Gold are my favorite, so we just did a ton of Yukon Gold.
So how do you know when these are ready to be harvested?
You could harvest them right now, or if you just want to wait until they're their biggest size, then you wait until the plant has died. Once the plant has started yellowing, so like this is starting to yellow, so in a few weeks these will be ready to start harvesting.
This is a perfect example of what I was just going to ask you, is you really pack a lot of plants into a grow box.
Yep.
And I mean, I think the seeds would tell you you're supposed to plant, you know, a foot apart.
So one, if you're doing a grow bed, you can usually get away with planting closer than if you were planting in the ground. But you can only do that if you're really amending your grow beds. So
you mean like the soil?
Yeah. So a lot of people won't even put soil in their grow beds. They'll just put straight compost.
Well, that's almost what you've done, isn't it?
So we put, what I do, we do have soil in there, but we do a deep mulch method. So there's 8 to 10 inches of mulch on there. And what that does is it helps maintain the soil moisture. It helps maintain nutrients in it because those wood chips are slowly breaking down and feeding them. I do also fertilize occasionally with fish emulsion because we're organic. We don't spray, we don't do anything. Hence the stockings on the tomatoes, because I don't like that. I've got dogs, I've got chickens, I've got kids, so I feel more comfortable knowing that my kids can come in and grab something and stick it in their mouth, and I don't have to worry about if it's been washed off or not. So you do lose some produce. I mean, that's why we've got the stockings. We've lost quite a few tomatoes to birds and things, but I still prefer it.
What's the poem that we've been shooting back and forth?
Oh, mine are Mom's.
Well, either one.
The one that I know is one for the rook, one for the crook, one to leave to rot, and one for the pot. Meaning you're always going to have things that come along. Sometimes you can't get to something and it rots before you can get to it. Sometimes you've got animals that come in.
And you've had problems with mice a lot.
Yeah, mice and birds we've had a lot of problems with. And then they say one for the crook, but I consider that one for your neighbor. We give a lot of our produce away to people in our neighborhood.
That's great.
So,
like I've mentioned previously, we're in the Intermountain area in Utah. And so Chelsea has she measured her beds really well and then made these little hoop coverings. And the wind kind of blew this one around. But that's been fairly successful, hasn't it?
yeah, that's why my tomatoes are so big. I mean, I'm getting tomatoes, and I've been harvesting tomatoes for weeks now, when most people are just starting to set fruit. But
when did you plant them?
I planted them the beginning of April. And if you're not going to cover tomatoes here, you don't plant until end of May.
Yeah.
Behind them, the big bushes are zucchinis.
Cool spring. Oh, and you got pumpkins turning colors already.
Just like
And
just like it's been a weird year for corn, it's also been a weird year for pumpkins. A lot of people who have pumpkins, they're already turning orange for some reason. But we've got 2 rows of pumpkins. Some of them are jack-o'-lantern pumpkins. Some of them are sweet pie pumpkins. So these are June bearing. So these are the type that you want to not let fruit the first year, so these don't have anything on them.
Oh, look at that.
These are ever bearing. This is our cage to keep the birds out. But these are our ever-bearing ones. So
look at those.
We have
those look
some.
Yummy.
Yep, we've got a bunch that are ready to pick. So we'll pick them and go and snack on them while we swim. Pick out the weeds. That's the other thing. If you mulch really deeply, weeding is the easiest thing in the world.
Oh yeah, because they don't
Like
have
that.
firm ground to root into.
No, they just pull out super easy like that.
So that's what you get. Let me tell you, those will taste so much better than anything you buy in the store. Plus, like Chelsea said, they have no pesticides on them.
Straight picked, you can eat them.
Oh yes. That
Best.
looks yummy. I hope that you enjoyed our little tour around Chelsea's garden. As you can see, I have tried to instill in my children a deep sense of self-reliance and independence. I think that brings, as I've talked before, I think that brings satisfaction. It also brings a sense of self-confidence because they've learned to depend more and more on themselves and to be independent of others, or at least more independent. We don't want to be completely independent of others or we destroy relationships. But an ability to stand on their own if they have to. And I believe that brings a great sense of self-confidence. Anyway, thanks for coming back. Thanks for joining us. If you like this video, share it, subscribe, and hit the little bell so that you'll be notified next time I post another video. Thank you very much. Stay safe, physically, emotionally, and mentally.